the girl a-running in a group. She had a high-speed motor in a 40 Ford coupe. She had a racing cam and a supercharged. Look at Buddy, hot rod at large. She's a hot rod. She's a hot rod. She's my hot rod.
AM 1420 WIMS, Talk of the South Shore. Nick Cohn, Ric Federighi. Nick's over at WHFB. Ricky Federighi here at WIMS. We're Gerard Media LLC, proudly presenting Big George. That's Big George. Everybody, big round of applause for Big George.
I'm telling you, Nick, tell that guy if he really loves you, he'll let you borrow it for the weekend.
Yeah!
There we go.
The kind of miles you put on, you'd ruin the car in a weekend.
I'll bring it back in one piece, but everything else is,
Yeah,
can't make
with
any
the
promises.
speedometer rolled over.
So what's coming up on the show?
We're going shopping Saturday. We're gonna talk about going. Now's the time. All of a sudden, all these car dealers got a glut of used cars brought in off a lease and stuff. They're low mileage. They're in good shape. Some of them are certified. Some will be certified, but they're cheap because they got so many of them. They're giving them away. Compared to what you're going to pay later in the summer, now is the time to buy. If you're looking for a used car for the kid or a grocery getter for Ma, this is it. And we're going to go through the different ones that you should or shouldn't buy.
Can I tell you?
Consumer Reports and Kelley Blue Book and all the authorities on cars.
I think that's awesome, and it's kind of funny. You almost sounded like a commercial there. I was like,
yeah, kind of.
Everybody.
But I'm not selling any particular brand. I could care less.
Right.
Why there's
like
so
to
many
see
used
people
cars
get a
out
good
there? Is
deal
it
on
because
a
people are
car
getting their
because
tax check
same
back and
car
they're
you buy
upgrading
now,
to brand
you
new
buy a car
ones?
now
Or
for $10,000. It's
Well,
going to be $12,500 by the end of summer.
Okay, Nick, what were you just saying? I'm sorry about tax stuff.
what's with all the surplus of the extra cars and them having so many of them? Are people buying new cars and getting rid of their old ones for tax season, or is it just?
Believe it or not, Nick, this is a ripple effect, the very last ripple effect of cash for clunkers.
Wow.
There were no cars going out on lease and everything because everybody was buying new cars because they were getting their old ones traded in, cheap, blah, 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 blah. Now, all of a sudden, everybody woke up and didn't have a car. They had to go lease. The lease car people had to go back and release cars. And now they're coming off a lease 3 years later. And there's just a ton of them out there, more than they've ever had.
Wow, I say cash for clunkers was years ago. I thought that
It was.
anything with that would have been
I'm
done
serious,
with.
but this is the very last ripple of the ripple effect.
Can I throw this out there too? And George, you brought this up, and I see this with everybody I know. More and more people. My truck's 10 years old, and I have 428,000, and I baby it. Thank you, Laporte Chrysler, who's been wonderful since day one with the extended warranty. I have a brand new engine in it as of probably a month or so ago. But that being said, I didn't pay anything for that engine because I got it under the extended warranty. But you're seeing a lot of people do that, George, where they're not really buying a lot of new, or they're just kind of keeping their old. What's your thought on that?
Well, that is the other thing. The sales are way down, and the cars are coming off a lease. The used cars are not, they're big. Right now, used cars are the way to fly. People are buying those warranties. They're keeping their cars longer.
Yeah. See,
the
I'm
used
with
car
you.
prices should be up, but now because of the very last glut of lease cars coming off a lease, they're everywhere. Man, there's a lot of good cars out there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recommend doing a lease on a car?
Personally, no. But it doesn't fit my personal financial. I did once, and it just didn't work. But a lot of people are in a position that they should, and it's an easy way to get a car, and it's a no obligation way of getting rid of it.
Can I throw this out there? And I'm going to say this to answer your question. We did it once. I would never do it again. And I will tell you why, even working in Chicago radio TV, because of the miles that they allot you. If someone is, let's just say someone lives in, I'm just going to throw out there, let's say someone lives in St. Joe and they travel into, Niles. Well, they're not really traveling that far, and who cares? So the miles are not going to be affected. Same with if someone lives in Valparaiso and they work in LaPorte. It's not a big deal. But for a guy like me that would put on literally 1,500 miles a week, I'm screwed. And even just going downtown. That being said, the wear and tear, when you bring that stuff back, that's where they nail you. Because then they're like,
the mileage you put on, Rick, you could never lease a car.
That was the big problem. In fact, we gave it back very soon after we did it, like not even a year. It was stupid.
I was going to say, hokey smoke, man, you'd reach your mileage limit in about 3 months.
Well, for me personally, it was, we just thought maybe it would be cool. And you know what? I just thought to myself, it didn't work for me. Like George said, it didn't work for him. There are people that do that and religiously You know,
Oh,
they
yeah.
lease. They never own. And it's kind of like some people with homes where you've got a home or they're renting and they're like, you know what, I'm just going to rent because right now it's easier for me to rent. I know more people now that got out of homes and are renting because they're done with, they're getting up there in age, 50, 60, they're like, screw it, I'm done. And let someone else take care of it. And quite honestly, they're going to have that payment. And even whether it's taxes or whatever, they're paying it. So I guess it depends upon, you know, the situation you're in and what works for you, your family, your being, your person, you know. But it's not, I'll tell you right now, definitely not for everybody. If it is an option for you, be very careful about what you're signing.
Well, but these used cars that are coming off are in the 40, maybe 40,000, 45,000 mile range. Some of them are in the high 30s. And there's just a ton of them on the used car lots. And they look great and they run great. Some of them got available extended warranties like yourself. They could buy an extended warranty and keep it for 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's a good deal right now. So we're going to go over all the list and see what's out there of the people what you're going to find. You're not going to find a big amount of cars like Nick owns on lease. People don't lease those. Companies will lease them once in a while. The government uses them for protecting the president, you know.
Yeah.
But and of course the Army uses them for tanks. I'm teasing you, Nick. But anyway, but the lease cars are more like the Ford Fusions and the Jeeps and the stuff like that, the Chevy Impalas and that kind of thing. So you're going to find those out there. You're not going to find certain cars that were coming off a lease that are going to be a deal.
What about like a big pickup truck or a thing like that? I know you said not really the big SUVs, but what about like a pickup or a Jeep kind of car? Are they mainly just the fuel efficient, smaller cars?
Yeah, most people don't lease the big trucks. Some companies will, but it's not a big lease item, especially like your Suburban. Nobody really leases them unless it's a company that needs one. But everybody that has a sales fleet, if they got 20 salesmen, they'll lease 20 Impalas or 20 Fusions or, you know, Chryslers or whatever, just to get them out on the road. And then 30,000 miles, 40,000 miles, they trade them back in and lease them again.
How about that? So is that a pretty good, pretty good biz for the leasers then? I mean,
some of these dealers got a 90-day and 120-day inventory, they call it. In other words, they don't think they can move that inventory in 4 months.
Well, we're looking forward to your show, 928 Car Guys. By the way, we are completely out of Big George coloring books. They're gone. We had some scouts in here. We had some young ones in here. And we had some adults. I had a stack from your crew, and Tim brought them in. I'm out. And I actually had people coming in the last few days asking for coloring books, so I'm out.
Yeah,
so,
I'm out, too, and they keep coming in here, too. Is that a cool coloring book or what?
Loved it. I wish I would have grabbed one. I'm bummed. I didn't grab one.
That's my guy that does the drawing. I'm going to give him a picture of Nick Cohn and have him do a hot rod Suburban with a big gear shift and a blower sticking out the hood with Nick driving.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be in a coloring book.
Oh, I thought you were always going to say you always wanted to be a blower. All right, get out of here, George. We love you.
Goodbye.
We'll see you. Bye. AM 1420 WIMS, Michigan City, a Girard Media Company, streaming live at WIMSradio.com.